Hi, and welcome to the Revive, Thrive, and Optimize podcast. I'm Billy Weiss, compounding pharmacist and health and wellness expert. This morning, I have a special guest across from me. I have Bill Sherman. Good morning, Bill.
Good
and
morning.
As always, running everything behind the scenes, producer Mike.
Morning, Mike.
All right. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, everybody out there. So I think that Bill is here today and going to bring us a unique perspective from men, right? So tell us what you're thinking, Bill.
Well, first, let me say that the easy part is just to let my provider tell me what to do. And years ago, you made, and I have to thank you, you've made me aware of certain things I need to pay attention to. That there are a lot of sources of information, and to go through all that and analyze all that and decide what's best for me is a real challenge. And again, I thank you for making me aware that I do need to pay attention to a couple of different aspects of my health care and my health span going forward. So one of the things that I run into from my professional provider, from research, from you and from others, is just the contradictory information and trying to get all that sifted through. And at some point, as I told you before, I just get somewhat paralyzed with trying to analyze everything.
Yeah.
So today, my question is, where can we focus first? And I don't want a shotgun approach, be surgical in what we discuss, but one of the things that I see in family and friends is just a lot of metabolic problems.
Yeah.
Cancer and tumor and autoimmune problems. And the provider has the answer.
A drug.
The pharmaceutical.
A drug, yeah.
And I've tried those through the years, and you can see in my ups and downs with, let's say, cholesterol, to just start there. You can see when I've been on a statin and when I wasn't. It did go down.
Yes, it will drive the cholesterol down.
And once again, thank you for making me aware of the side effects that I was receiving from that.
Right.
And so at this point in time, just my most recent lab had my LDL increasing significantly in the last 6 months. And I didn't know whether, did the deep dive, and I wanted to try to figure out why. So went back and looked at what we were doing during the lab to see, what was I doing? What was I eating? What did I fast long enough? Did I fast too long? And so when I saw the LDL go up for about 25 points in the last 6 months, and the HDL stayed fairly consistent, triglycerides stayed fairly consistent. My question is, why did my LDL go up so dramatically in just a 6 month period of time?
So, Bill, I think I was just looking for a doctor's name here.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make sure I had the right name. There is a PhD, I think. I don't think he's like a medical doctor, but he's a PhD who studies a lot of cholesterol. So let's talk about that.
Well, and I was fasting for 24 to 30 hours before the lab.
Okay. I think that definitely affects your numbers, and I'm going to tell you why I think that.
Okay.
His name is Nick Horowitz, I believe. Yeah, Nick Norwitz. I'm sorry, Nick Norwitz has done these research studies. And he shows that, what really a farce the LDL theory is, okay? I mean, and we know, Bill, by the way, study after study after study shows that people with just outrageous total cholesterol numbers, outrageous LDL numbers. I mean, really high numbers. Many of them still have 0 coronary artery calcium scores. Okay, which means they don't have any visible plaque in their arteries. So if, LDL was the case, and some of these studies have LDL, not total cholesterol, over 300, and they don't have plaque buildup. So they're, I think number one, it's a completely missed concept that LDL causes heart disease. And that would be the reason for the statin, right? Prevent the heart disease.
Well, and it was a strong recommendation again.
Yes.
To be on statin.
And we can talk about maybe why a small small dose of statin may reduce risk of heart attack, but it's very, very small in the reduction in a small dose. But let's talk about what Nick did. Nick did these studies where he would eat bags of Oreos, bunches and bunches of Oreos for however many weeks, and then he'd go have his cholesterol checked, and his cholesterol would be down, his LDL would be down.
I want to be in that test. I like Oreos.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's the thing to do. I'm just telling you what a farce the test is. There's another researcher, and I can't think of his name right off, and I don't want to look for it right now, but he did the same thing with white bread. He ate a bunch of white bread, and they did this over and over and over, and they kept getting the same results with the Oreos and white bread. So number one, we know those are not healthy choices, right?
Right.
We know that's going to cause that metabolic dysfunction that you mentioned earlier. And it's not going to create a very nice looking body if we continue to do that over time. But they just showed what a real, how you could manipulate that test. So I think just the opposite, when somebody has fasted before the test, I think we'll see their LDL go up. Now remember, LDL is a very powerful antioxidant. Cholesterol is a powerful antioxidant. LDL cholesterol is the only way that the brain makes new brain cells. So when we see these ideas that we need to lower the LDL, it used to be below 100. Now I see some below 30.
Wow.
What we run into, and what Dr. Dwayne Graveline's book is about, is called Lipitor, Thief of Memory. And he talks about, and has, Bill, more studies than you and I can read in a month, studies on statins and their side effects on the mind. But he goes on to have categories of side effects with subcategories of each of those from everything that you can imagine, okay? From the obvious things, the brain dysfunction, or they call it the TIA, like the transient ischemic attacks, where they just can't remember and it comes back. Then he has the studies where their memory never fully returns. Then he has studies on muscle damage, which is one of the biggest problems with statin drugs that we see. Just general overall fatigue. But he goes into so in depth into so many different just categories with study after study after study. So I'm going to tell you a real life story of a guy that I know that came through my summit, and he had amazing results as a type 2 diabetic. As you know, the OptiU program works only 100% of the time in a type 2 diabetic when they listen. That's it, 100%, right.
Did for me.
So this guy's name is Mark, and Mark came to me, and he come through the summit, and he had kidneys starting to fail from the high blood sugars. And he made a total turnaround. He just really changed what he did, the supplements. He followed the program to a T. He lost a ton of weight. He started riding his bike every day. It was amazing. Okay. He felt like $1 million compared to where he was. And he got off all his prescription drugs, and he didn't need them anymore, right? And he was injecting insulin the whole 9 yards when I explained, hey, you already have too much insulin. They never measured it. You know that story.
Oh, yeah.
So he called me one day and he said, Billy, man, and this was, a couple years later. I hadn't heard from him. I mean, he would order supplements, and he would order them online because he lived, a distance away. So I hadn't seen Mark or talked to him personally in quite a while. And he called me one day and he said, hey, man, I really need your help. And I said, okay, what's going on? And he said, well, they've got me scheduled to go to the Mayo Clinic somewhere in Florida to be tested. They tell me that I have MS. And I was like, well, Mark, men can get MS, but it's very rare. It's very unusual compared to the number of women that would be diagnosed with MS. Mm-hmm. And so I said, well, tell me what's going on. And he said, well, I'll just be walking down the hall and my legs will just give out and I just fall on the ground. I just fall. I can't control it. Wow. And I was like, wow, that's weird with all the stuff you're doing. Yeah. I said, tell me, has anything changed? And he said, well, my doctor scared me back to taking a statin drug. And I don't remember which one. I don't remember if it's Crestor or Lipitor. I don't know. It doesn't matter. They all work the same. And I said, Mark, I think it's your statin drug. And he's like, oh, it couldn't be causing that, could it? So I go to Dr. Graveline. I get the studies about how statin drugs can cause this very thing, MS symptoms. I send it over to Mark. I said, read it for yourself. He reads it. He says, okay. He said, I don't want to go to Florida. I don't want to spend the money to go to the Mayo Clinic and have all these tests done. I said, well, why don't you try a little experiment if you agree? And that is, maybe you stop the statin drug and see if this improves. But now I'm not your doctor, so don't do it unless you talk to your doctor. And he said, oh, I'm just stopping it. Well, he called me about 2 weeks later. He said, it's gone. I mean, this was happening to him regularly. Wow. Like once or twice a day. Mm-hmm. He couldn't ride his bike anymore, what's that going to do to his blood sugars again, right?
Boy, he had a real reaction to it then.
He did. Now, they're not typically that severe, right, obviously. Mm-hmm. But the brain fog is very common to people I talk to. The muscle, the tiredness, the fatigue, right, some of them really hurt. Like they just, their muscles really, really ache. Mm-hmm. And they don't ever equate it with the statin, okay?
I didn't.
Because their doctors tell them, it's in a lot of cases, that it's just doesn't happen. It's not true, right? You didn't. So
I'm getting older.
I think the thing that we need to remember when you talk about maybe the conflict or the doctors or the medical system's telling you this,
right,
Billy's teaching this. I think there's a couple of things we need to hit on that might help people understand. So just remember, the doctors are always coming from the perspective of the drug companies, because that's who controls the agendas. That's who controls the education, or better called indoctrination system that they go through, right? Mm-hmm. So they have learned from what the drug companies have taught them are things that they can treat with a drug or a class of drugs.
Right.
For example, high LDL, we use statin drugs. There is no alternative. That is the answer that they're given. That is what they are taught. For example, bioidentical hormones. Well, they're dangerous. They cause all these side effects, and we're not going to talk about them. We're not going to learn about them because the drug companies can't patent them, right? And that's what they know. And then we need to think about the perspective that I'm coming from. Number one, it's a science-based perspective. So everything is based on studies and experiences, not just from me in my 36 years of doing it, but from many, many other providers, such as Dwayne Graveline and these people that have all these studies, right? And some of the people that I learned from with these studies. Mm-hmm. So you won't find the same way more than $1 million for a lot of these studies that the drug companies put on. But you will find plenty of studies that show that these natural things work. So the perspective that I come from, and you and I were talking about getting this done early so we can get to church. So the perspective that I come from is that God designed our bodies to be healthy. And what we do is we get in the way. We make bad decisions, oftentimes because that's what the experts tell us to do, right? That creates havoc in our body. And so my perspective is, let's put back what God intended and let's see where we go from there. And what my experience has been, Bill, is that almost 100% of the time in people that listen, we have at least very positive results, I'll say.
I think the Bible does refer to treating your body like a temple.
Well, it does say that your body is a temple, correct.
And the results that I have are more positive following your protocols than the others. So I've got actual...
Yeah, you've got anecdotal one-of-one
for me
research.
Right,
but
exactly.
everything that I taught you to do was based off a lot of research and a lot of experience.
Absolutely.
So it wasn't Billy's opinion, and I'll tell you that. I'll tell you, during my OptiU Summit, I tell everybody what I'm teaching you is science-based. If it's Billy's opinion, I'll tell you it's Billy's opinion. And that opinion is going to be based on science and 36 years of doing it, right? Mm-hmm. So when we look at those two perspectives, here's the way that I like to kind of nail it down. The doctor's perspective of treat everything with a drug and only test the numbers that we have drugs for, right? Hence why they don't test fasting insulin, why they don't often test high sensitivity C-reactive protein, because, and that's just a few of them, but we don't have a drug that they're taught to fix it.
Right.
So we don't measure it. So the average prescription drug, and you've heard me say this over and over and over, in the package insert that the drug company provides has an average of 69 side effects listed. So they tell us up front, 69 things can go wrong. Now, the University of Stanford School of Medicine did a study and said that you can take 229 additional side effects to the 69 for a grand total of 298 side effects for one drug. Now, I'm going to tell you a drug like a statin, that's the average. A drug like a statin has many more than 298 side effects, okay? But the average prescription drug, your average blood pressure drug, your average blood pressure, neuropathy, whatever, right? 298 side effects. What they go on to tell us, though, Bill, and this is the scary part to me, is that 298 side effects for one drug, but if you're on two drugs, it's Buzz Lightyear to infinity and beyond. We have no idea how many side effects.
I've heard you say that before, yeah.
So think about that perspective where we're going 298 side effects for one, exponential side effects we don't know for more than one.
Right.
And we typically don't get really good results out of all these pharmaceutical drugs because of all these side effects. And the fact that over 106,000 people a year die, documented, from properly prescribed prescription drugs year after year after year. Now, just imagine, I tell people all the time when I'm teaching, if that were a plane crash, a plane's crashed every year and we had 106,000 people die, you would not see anything else on the news. It would be how the airlines were killing people. Or, it would be top of the, you'd have to quit flying. We can't do this. But with the pharmaceutical companies, we don't hear jack about it. And you know why? You watch TV, any channel you want, and you see who's paying for all the
It's overwhelming.
Commercials.
It's overwhelming.
Those
people are so happy on those
I've
commercials.
seen statistics, Bill, that it's over 70% of the revenue to all these programs and television stations come from the pharmaceutical companies. So we don't hear about it. We don't hear about the 106,000 people that die every year. Versus, so all those side effects, all those deaths, versus my approach of the right vitamins, minerals, lifestyle, hormones, peptides, whatever, that have zero side effects. They have cost. Okay, there's cost. But you won't find 298 side effects. You won't find 98 side effects. You won't find 8 side effects. You will only find benefit. So that's the approach that I take versus them. Now, I teach everybody to be the CEO of their own health, right? The chief executive officer of Bill's Health is Bill, not Billy, not his doctor, not Lydia, his wife, not Janet and Don, his friends, but Bill.
Right.
So when you get that overwhelming, the doctor's telling me this and Billy's telling me the opposite, then you have to decide which you think is right for Bill and which is more credible. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm going to tell you, they have way more media, way more influence. And so what they've done is they've kind of gotten everybody to believe that what they say is right. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
But you know from your own experience and from Lydia's experience and from some of your friends' experience,
feedback from friends.
What works is the things that I teach, right? What works without the side effects and gives you the best results.
There are side effects, but they're all positive at
Correct.
this point.
Correct. So that's really where the person has to go, okay, who's more in line with what I want to do or what I want to accomplish? I tell everybody taking prescription drugs is not wrong. It's just typically not fixing anything. We're just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet hole and hoping that things get better. Now, the problem is, Bill, what happens is they give you a statin drug. Now you're fatigued and all this, so then they give you something for that, or you have neuropathy. That's a very common thing for that. Mm-hmm. Then they give you a drug for neuropathy. Well, what does that do? Well, that makes you sleepy. That makes you tired. That makes you even more fatigued. What's all that do? Well, it makes you have diabetes. So now you have metabolic syndrome. So now they give you metformin, and then they give you glipizide, and then they give you insulin. And you can see how we snowball and why the average senior is on 7 or 8 prescription meds today. Mm-hmm. Over 50% of Americans are on at least one med a day. It's mind-blowing to me, Bill. In other countries, we don't have this, and they have much better health than we do. Mm-hmm. So Absolutely. We need to look at the way other parts of the world live versus the way we live and how we consume the vast majority of prescription drugs, and we get the worst outcome, even though we're spending the most money. So that's kind of been my approach, Bill, is to look. And when you – the other thing that I always point out is iatrogenic. I don't know if you remember me teaching iatrogenic, but I think this is an important concept to think of when we're talking about this discussion of who's right, who's wrong, whatever you want to say. What makes Bill feel good at night that he's doing? Well, the leading cause of death, I think most people in America understand, is heart disease. Okay? Mm-hmm. The second leading cause of death is cancer. So 2 out of 4 deaths, or 50% of deaths, we'll say, in America are from heart disease and cancer. Mm-hmm. So when you think about that, if you go, wow, if I can just reduce my risk of heart disease and cancer, that's a big deal. I mean, that's the biggest deals we can get, right? Mm-hmm. And we know how to reduce the risk. We can't prevent it all, but we know how to greatly reduce the risk of heart disease. We know how to greatly reduce the risk of cancers. So when we look at that and then we say, well, what's the third leading cause of death in the United States? And
I know what that is.
Yeah, and it's iatrogenic. And this is in their so-called Bibles, right? It's printed in their place, in their journals. The third leading cause of death is iatrogenic, is the doctor, is the medical system. And that's year after year after year after year. Now, I say all the time, I think that the number is much higher than what's documented. Okay. We don't get them all reported.
Right.
But that number is well over 225,000 people a year die from iatrogenic causes. So doctor related, medical system related causes. Now we know 106,000 of those plus a year is properly prescribed prescription drugs. So how many people have ever died from good quality supplements, good quality water, exercise, sleep, hormones? I'm going to tell you 0. Bioidentical hormones. I better be careful how I say that. I'm going to say 0 people died from it. They may have died while they were doing it, but I think we improved their quality of life during their time they were here.
Oh, I agree.
So we just have to look at, to me, we just look at statistics, and I tell everybody, if you have the choice, let's just use, an obvious example for what I do on a weekly basis is help people get off sleeping drugs like Ambien. Okay? Mm-hmm. So if you take more than 7 Ambien a year or that type of drug for sleep, your risk of death from all causes increases. That's well documented. And not many people I know take 7 a year. They take 1 every night of these type drugs, right, for sleep. So if we know that drug has an average of 298 side effects, and we know from their own studies that it increases the risk of death from all causes, nobody ever tells anybody that. Versus, hey, how about you try my 5 chelated organic salt magnesium for sleep? Because it only works about 99% of the time that they don't need Ambien, okay? Mm-hmm. And it has 350 positive effects in the body. So I tell everybody, let's just weigh it out, right? The old get the pad out. Okay, 298 side effects and increased risk of death over here. 350 positive side effects, if you want to call them. 350 positive things happen over here. Mm-hmm. No negative effects. Which do I want to try first? Yeah. You see, that's my philosophy. Let's get back to what God intended.
Some fundamentals.
And just some fundamentals. You hear me preach it all the time. Foundational 4, right? The 5 pillars. These are basic things that every single person from birth to death will benefit from.
Right.
I don't think you can say that about prescription drugs.
Well, and to your point too, I think that there's a comprehensive way to go about the supplements.
Yeah.
The whole food diet, the lifestyle change.
Yeah.
In combination with all of that, I think is where you get your greatest benefit. And I've heard you say that before too.
Absolutely.
So it's comprehensive for me. And sometimes I fall a little short. I'm not perfect at all, but the exercise and you got a book called The Biblio Diet. You might be familiar with it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of going back to what ancient man,
right?
What did he consume?
Yeah.
And what kind of health did he have? Now he had other challenges that we don't have. But one of those diets seemed to be somewhat carnivorous and also ketogenic. And the combination of the two seemed to be where that book was leading me. Yeah. And we've tried to adopt a lot of that along with exercise and supplements. And,
right.
And then trying to analyze where we are. Because what we found is that when we changed lifestyle and diet, that when we cheated, we knew right away.
Yeah, right.
Whereas when you're consistently inflamed,
yes,
you can't tell. You feel bad all the time, and that must be just the way I'm going to have to be.
And Bill, you make a great point there. That is so many people's baseline today. They just think it's normal.
Right.
They really do think that's normal for them. And I'm like, if you would just try the foundational 4.
Just give it 90
and
days.
See how you feel, you would be blown away. Don't change anything else. Just take the multi, take the mag, take the probiotic, take the digestive enzyme, and watch what happens.
I was skeptical.
I get it. But so many people have gotten so used to being just at that state, they think that's normal. And you know my philosophy. If you don't feel 18 every day, you're not doing something right.
Yeah.
Right? That is literally my philosophy. I'm
Absolutely.
58 years old, and I feel 18 every day. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine going through life not being able to go out and go all day
Experience.
long from early to late and hike and lift weights and run and work and
Yeah.
chase the grandkids and do whatever we want to do, right?
Exactly.
That would just, it would be really bad for me. But
That's a quality of life that I want.
quality of life.
to, yeah.
So, I mean, we know, people will come to me all the time when you talk about that, and they'll say, "Man, I have never had more energy in my life," or "Man, my nails and my hair have never grown like they're growing now." And I'm like, "We're just giving you back what you were missing."
Right.
It's not real complicated. It's just high quality nutrients. That's what it is. It's the highest quality nutrients that I know of. And so that's where people get tripped up.
One of the things, too, I think that I do feel better. I have more energy and I have a more clarity of thought.
Yes.
So many different positive things
Yes.
have happened. And it did it in 90-day increments. 90 days, well, we'll see where you can do anything for 90 days.
Right.
And at 90 days, we said, well, that's good.
Yeah.
90 days after that,
Yeah.
it's even better. And
Yeah.
now we're 2 years later and things, but at some point I still have some issues that come up.
Of course.
Like the
We all do.
cholesterol thing.
Yes.
Could the source, in my research, I find that inflammation seems to be the key. And
Yeah.
a medical provider is going to say, this is what you have and this is what you do for it. I say, well, why do I have it?
Well, that's the key question. That's the key
what
question.
causes me to have that cholesterol,
Right.
or that inflammation, or that the autoimmune response that you
Right.
get because of the problem in the gut biome, what is it? Dysbiosis.
Yes,
Is
dysbiosis.
that a good word?
That's a big word. Yeah.
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 Don't ask me to spell it. But the imbalance of the bacteria in the microbiome is causing inflammation, and then there's spike protein causing inflammation,
Yes.
and then there's
High insulin.
high
Causing inflammation.
The sugar in the blood can't
Yeah.
get it out. Then what was the other thing I was trying to think of? There's several other things that are causing inflammation in the body.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do is to discover what the cause of that inflammation is.
Yep.
And in regards to cholesterol, that's just one test.
Yeah. Well,
so,
and I think
in
it's totally,
three months it might be different.
I think LDL and total cholesterol are totally invalid as far as your health. What is important
Right.
in that test is what's your triglycerides and what's your HDL. And that is what's the biggest indicator of whether you're at risk from those so-called cholesterol numbers, right?
Well, let me ask too, and I don't want to spend too much time on cholesterol because we beat it to death, and like you say, it's inconsequential at some point. I like a 1-to-1 ratio between my triglycerides and HDL.
Yeah.
And I shoot for that, and I'm happy with that. But I still have issues, and one of those issues might be thyroid.
Yeah.
And so, can we go there and
Sure.
talk a little bit about thyroid? We
Sure.
talk about women's thyroid.
We talk about women a lot on thyroid.
and hormone
Yeah.
balancing and
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And what I've always focused on is testosterone, and
Yep.
so is it hypothyroidism
Yes.
that might also affect
Absolutely.
LDL?
Yeah, well, absolutely. So one of the things that you have to remember is when I talk about thyroid, and the thing that gets overlooked is we need to look at the free T3 and the free T4, and it's not typically done, right? I mean, they just don't do it.
I remember your podcast with Janet.
Yeah,
about that.
they only
Yeah.
look at TSH, so people can go back. That's just the brain talking to the thyroid. It has nothing to do with what thyroid function is in the body.
Okay.
It's just the brain telling the thyroid something.
So can
Okay?
we follow that similar protocol, and it's just different volumes of hormones that we have to deal with?
That's correct.
Okay.
So what happens is, think of T3. If you remember, T4 is putting gas in the tank.
Right. I
You're
remember
filling
that.
your tank up. But T3 is the gas pedal. How far does it mash? Does it work? Is the cable broken? So you can have all the gas in your car you want. If your pedal doesn't work, if your gas pedal doesn't work, doesn't matter. The gas is worthless. You're sitting there spinning your wheel, not literally your wheels, you're spinning your motor and you're not moving.
Okay.
So think of your thyroid that way. Your T3, if it's not working right, if your pedal is not optimized, you can't burn off fat. You can't burn off cholesterol the way you're supposed to. So yes, and a lot of times one of the indicators that somebody's thyroid can be off is when they come with a weird looking cholesterol test, right? Mm-hmm. So again, I don't think total cholesterol or LDL has any bad bearing on their health, but it might tell us that something else is going on. Absolutely.
And that's when
when we have low T3, which is very common in men, again, I would have said over the age of 50 or 60 10 years ago. Now I'll say 30 or 40.
Wow.
Okay, and younger sometimes, but definitely then. We're not able to burn fat like we could before. We're not able to have the energy that we did before. And remember, T3 is our gas pedal. So having the thyroid balanced is extremely important for the things you talk about because a few things. Number one, low T3, low thyroid hormone T3 is directly related to heart disease, men and women. Okay, because the heart needs the gas to work, to pump, right? To do its thing. Low T3 is going to be directly related to metabolic dysfunction because I can't burn the sugar and the stuff off right efficiently. Now, what does metabolic dysfunction lead to? High insulin. What does insulin lead to? Chronically high insulin leads to high inflammation. High inflammation is correlated with and causative in heart disease and brain disease and cancers and Alzheimer's and pain and arthritis and joint disease. And so you start going through the list and you go, oh, well, that's a problem. Mm-hmm. Now, some people's joints hurt when they have low T3. I mean, their joints just hurt. And so when you replace their thyroid, you'll see. Now, the reason that we talk so much about it in women is you'll commonly see low T3 in fibromyalgia, which is almost always women are diagnosed with that. Mm-hmm. So low T3 plays an extremely important role in how the muscles work. Not just the heart, but the other muscles of the body that are painful.
Right.
So, yeah, the thyroid is a much misunderstood and overlooked. And, the problem is, Bill, if they measure only your TSH or thyroid stimulating hormone, 99% of the time, that's the only measurement you get on your thyroid.
Right.
If it's within a range, I think the range probably for LabCorp something like 0.45 or so they've lowered it a little bit to maybe 5.5, something like that. Okay. It used to be 7.5, I think. Now they've made it 0.5 to somewhere around 5.5 or something like that. That's not exact, but that's close. If your thyroid, it's a weird deal. If your thyroid stimulating hormone is higher, that means that your supposed thyroid function is lower. They're inversely related, right?
Okay.
So that is the thyroid stimulating hormone is the brain and the thyroid communicating. So if the TSH is higher, it's the brain saying, the body telling the brain, you need more thyroid in the system to make the gas pedal work. The problem with that is the thyroid makes about 80% T4 gas in the tank. You're filling up the tank. Our bodies have to convert it to T3 gas pedal. So when we use drugs, like what is most commonly used by the medical system, again, I hate to keep picking on them, but they make it easy. They will give a drug called Synthroid or levothyroxine, which is T4 only. So let's just say you went in and you were having these symptoms and your TSH was 20 or 10, anything above normal, they'd say, well, Bill, here's a prescription for Synthroid. Take this every morning on an empty stomach with water and come back in 3 months and we'll retest your TSH. And you go back in 3 months and now your TSH is 3.0. So it's right in the sweet spot. Okay. And they go, you're perfect. And you go, yeah, but nothing's changed. I don't feel any better.
Right.
I still have the very same symptoms I came here for. They pat themselves on the back and they tell themselves what good doctors they are because your TSH is 3.0. And you go, yeah, doc, but I don't feel any better. Just keep taking it, Bill. You're just getting older. Okay. You can't expect to feel like you felt 20 years ago, Bill. Just your TSH is perfect. I've done my job and I've done it well. Okay. The problem is if you can't convert that T4 to T3, that TSH number is completely irrelevant to you. You can put all the gas in the tank you want. If you can't match the pedal, it doesn't matter. And we see this over and over and over in thyroid treatments. Mm-hmm. So they get their numbers normal, their TSH numbers normal, but nobody ever checks the function of the actual thyroid hormone, the free T4 and the free T3. So what happens is now Bill starts to believe, well, I guess I am just getting older. My TSH is perfect, right? And so that's what happens, Bill, and people are so confused, and then they just believe that lie that, hey, you're just getting older. Yeah, we're all getting older. It doesn't mean we have to fall apart. Doesn't mean we have to feel bad. Doesn't mean I have to have overweight. Doesn't mean I need to be diabetic.
No, not at all.
You know?
I agree with you, but where do I find T3? How do I source T3? In a diet, in a supplement?
No,
both?
well.
What do you do?
Yeah, well, it's a prescription. It's typically a compounded combination of T4 and T3, and actually T2 and T1, which we don't measure, but it's called a compounded porcine thyroid. So it actually comes from a pig's thyroid.
Okay.
Now, the beautiful thing about that is, and it's hard for me to still get my mind wrapped around, but a pig's anatomy and a human's anatomy are very, very similar.
Heard that before.
So the thyroid functions seem to be almost identical. So the beauty of putting back the porcine thyroid is you get the T3 and the T4, and then we can measure it, right? And we can see and you can feel the difference. You wouldn't believe the number of people that feel the difference.
Okay.
Now, I tell everybody, you're getting T2 and T1 that we don't measure, but they play a role in your health. And there's just not a blood measurement for it because the drug companies don't care, right? So, that is the answer, and we do it all the time, and people have amazing results. You'll see oftentimes their cholesterol numbers come down, their blood sugar numbers come down, their insulin numbers come down, their pains go away. They start to burn fat. They start to wake up in the morning. They're not cold. I'll give you a great example. Beth and I met a couple on a trip to Alaska in our RV. We met this couple from Wisconsin, and they decided they wanted to do consults. So we ended up doing consults with them and got them both started on bioidentical hormones. And one of them, the lady, I thought she needed thyroid. She had low T3 and she had a lot of symptoms that made me think, hey, her thyroid's not functioning the way it should. She was cold when she shouldn't be cold. You know, some of those kind of things, those obvious symptoms. Mm-hmm. She sent me a text and said, hey, I just wanted to let you know kind of thing. Or maybe I sent her a text and said, hey, just checking in on y'all since y'all are just getting started with these. And she said, well, about 10 days after starting these hormones, I'm not cold anymore. It's 51 degrees and rainy where we are, and I'm not freezing all the time like I was before. Do you think it's the hormones? And I go,
something's happening.
Yes, it's the hormones. So she could tell a difference that fast, Bill.
Wow.
That she could not, that her body was able to regulate temperature. Now, the reason this is so important, and I'll let you talk, but this is really an important point to point out, I think, about T3. I've already talked about the studies that show low T3 correlates with heart disease. Okay? Mm-hmm. Number one killer in America is heart disease.
Absolutely.
Low T3 correlates with cancer. Number 2 killer in America is cancer. So low T3, for example, she was not able to be as warm as she could. T3 controls our temperature regulator. Okay. So there's research that shows that cancer patients, Dr. Gerson did this research decades ago, that cancer patients always have low thyroid function, low T3. He knew this. He saw it in all these cancer patients he was treating. And the problem with that is when you have low T3, your body can't heat itself up like it should. Now, why does that matter in cancer? Well, the immune system is activated with heat. What do we have happen when we get a virus or a bacteria? What do we spike?
Yeah.
A fever, right? Your fever goes up. Your temperature goes up. That is the body's way of activating our immune system.
Okay.
Now, what do people want to do? They want to give everybody Tylenol and Advil and get the fever down as fast as they can. And I say, no, please don't do that. Let the fever do its thing. It's activating the immune system. So when we can't, what Dr. Gerson found was when we can't regulate our temperature like we should, we're not able to turn on our immune system and our natural killer cells to go take care of these cancer cells, to wipe out these cancer cells.
Makes sense.
So he would actually measure these people's morning temperatures. That's the way he discovered this. And their morning temperatures were all these cancer patients he was finding, their morning temperatures were below normal. And so he knew they had a thyroid problem. He would give them thyroid, T3. He would give them porcine thyroid, okay? And then he would start watching their temperature normalize. Now, one of the treatments that not so much here in America, but outside of America that they use for cancer treatments is to spike fevers in people because they know it turns the immune system on and it turns the natural killer cells on and it turns all these different immune protocols on in our body. And now we can try to go out and scavenge and find these cancer cells and get rid of them.
So a sauna can help.
Absolutely, a sauna can help. Yeah, I mean, no doubt. One of the things that Gerson clinics still today teach is for people to heat their bodies up every day, which I think sauna, exercise,
hot yoga.
The thing that they taught people to do was to get in a really hot bath with salt water and with salt and magnesium, and sit in that bath up to your neck for 15 or 20 minutes. I can't remember exactly, to warm your body, your core. We got to warm the core temperature up, not just the outside temperature. And that's why hot yoga, sauna, exercise that's pretty intense or in the heat or in the sun or this hot bath, that raises our core temperature and that turns the immune system on. So absolutely those things help.
Is a prescription for something like porcine T3 as difficult to get as testosterone?
Yes.
Good to know.
And you know why? Because the drug companies didn't teach them.
Right.
Yeah. So, Bill, it's a great question, and so many men are suffering from thyroid, and it just completely goes overlooked. A lot of women are suffering, but they're more often at least going to get some tests or come to somebody like me and say, hey, ask for a free T3 and a free T4. If they won't do it, we'll order it for you.
Okay.
So men, we just kind of overlook it, and you're right. We just think, well, it's their testosterone. Well, testosterone definitely plays a role, but is there T3 functioning? Now, I should point out, Bill, the reason that Synthroid doesn't work, and the research actually shows this, I should have pointed this out, that in 80% of patients, they have no benefit or negative benefit, okay, with levothyroxine or Synthroid alone. Now, here's why. A lot of people can't convert T4 to T3, and you know why? And remember, Synthroid is only T4. Porcine is T4 and T3 and T2 and T1. So if I keep giving you more of the gas, but you can't convert it to the gas pedal being mashed, it's worthless. So what happens is nutrient deficiencies, Okay. One of the reasons we don't convert T4 to T3 is nutrient deficiencies. Another reason is prescription drugs, such as many of your most common blood pressure and blood sugar drugs. So think about this. How many people are on those drugs and then they're taking Synthroid and nothing ever changes, right? And so we have to look at all these things and go, okay, the system is completely broken. The system that we are living under, I'll call it, or living in, the medical system,
Standard care.
standard of care it's a complete failure. Okay. I mean, and there's so many things we can look at, like iatrogenic deaths from properly prescribed prescription drugs. Look at the COVID debacle. Look at that. Wear a mask, stay 6 feet away, don't go outside, sanitize your packages before you take them inside, spray them with Clorox and leave them out there in 18 days. Take these shots that are toxic. I mean, we completely blew it. And I ask people all the time, I'm like, the doctor who forced you say forced you to get the shot. I say, bullcrap. You're the CEO.
Yeah.
How many times have they apologized for that? How many times has a doctor said, golly, I was wrong about that COVID shot thing. That was a bad idea.
Right.
Even though we look at the data today and go, what a disaster.
Well,
What a disaster.
I want to get into that just a little bit more, but I do want to mention or at least talk briefly about, or maybe it's a praise. Since being diagnosed with prostate cancer,
Yep.
have labs run every 3 months just to check on testosterone,
Yes.
PSA.
Yes.
And I have an MRI, BP MRI coming up
Yes.
next month just to double check. And
A specialized an MRI that gives much more results.
Exactly. It measures moisture content down
Yes.
to the centimeter level and
Yeah.
supposedly, early detection.
Right.
And let me just
Right.
give a plug for early detection in prostate cancer.
Yes.
And why we can't do that as a standard.
Well, the
Okay,
standard
but-
way that they look at it is not what you're talking about. That's
Right.
that's what men really need to hear from you, is there's a better path.
There is a better path, and I'll be glad to talk about it in detail at another time.
Right.
But what I'd like to do is to say that my PSA is continuing to go down.
Yes.
And my testosterone is a supplement is anywhere between 8 and 1200,
Yes.
and that's on a consistent basis.
Yes.
So my question along those lines is, can I look at what my PSA is just like I did before, years ago, before I had a procedure, and it's going to be an indication of whether I'm, my chances of continuing
Yeah.
prostate cancer or not.
Bill, I think that's a really valid question. And I think that, as you know, and as we discussed many times during this process, PSA is one number. And yes, I think that men need to know their PSA level. The problem is we need to know more than that. So yes, should you follow your PSA? Yes, absolutely. But your percentage of free PSA is really what we want to look at, and almost nobody gets it looked at, because that is a true indicator of your risk of prostate cancer. That is the most true indicator.
You have to ask for it, though.
You have to demand it. Yeah.
And I did. I've
you
got
did.
results
That's
just
right.
recently.
And so I think we put those numbers together because PSA can, and even Morgenthaler, Dr. Morgenthaler, one of the leading urologists from Harvard, says, PSA is kind of outdated and doesn't give us the full story, right? So, yes, I think you should follow it. And I think it's great that it's going down. It means that that's a good sign. Mm-hmm. And I think that you're exactly what we teach is that testosterone doesn't cause it. Actually, low testosterone is correlated with prostate cancer, causative of prostate cancer, not normal or higher than normal today testosterone. So
I can tell you a story. I asked that question. I said,
yeah.
testosterone being low or high, and which causes or exacerbates
Yes.
prostate. And I said, well, which is it?
Yeah. It can't be both. Yeah.
I've yet to get an answer from.
Well, and you probably won't, but Morgenthaler is very good at teaching this. and the studies show that lower testosterone men have more prostate cancer. And he talks about a lot of the reason is, and we talk about this in breast cancer for women, and prostate and breast tissue are very similar.
Very similar.
Okay. Testosterone is an apoptotic hormone. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that it creates natural cell death. So cells in our prostate, cells in our breast, cells in a woman's breast are supposed to live a lifespan and die and be replaced. Testosterone helps that naturally happen when it's supposed to. When those cells don't die and they go rogue, that's where we get cancer. So testosterone helps produce apoptosis, or that natural cell death that we're looking for. Testosterone also keeps the body strong. I think the number, and don't quote me on this number, I'd have to go back and look, but I think about 70% of cancer patients actually die from cachexia, which is starvation.
Oh, really?
Okay. They can't take in the nutrients. They're sick from the treatments, those kind of things.
Oh.
So think about, they lose their muscle. So if we can give them good nutrients and keep their testosterone level up, we give them a much better quality of life. Okay. And we reduce the risk of them dying from cachexia. So, there's so many things that are misunderstood about testosterone, prostate cancer being one of the big ones, heart disease being a big one, rage being a big one. Neil Rosier teaches it all the time. I think he's the leader in bioidentical hormone training for medical providers and pharmacists. I mean, he's the best. And he has, literally thousands and thousands of studies to review all these things, okay? But he talks about, Bill, how if you were a jerk before testosterone, you'll be a jerk on testosterone. And if you were a nice person without testosterone, you'll be a nice person with testosterone. So one of the things that I find interesting about that is so many families, not necessarily the man, but the wives and the daughters and the sons will tell me, since you recommended bioidentical testosterone for X man, his mood is completely different. He's a different person. He's not grumpy. He's not mad all the time. He's not tired all the time. It changes people's demeanor. And you've heard me say it over and over and over. The thing that is overlooked with testosterone and that men really need to hear and understand is it is a brain hormone. It does have the effects that we all know it for, of helping you build muscle, burn fat, and better sex. It has all those effects, but it works on the brain, and that's completely overlooked. It is a feel-good dopamine-producing hormone for men and women, and it is the reason that men are men. It's the reason that a man's a man, because he has a higher testosterone level. And so it makes men more decisive. It makes men more able to make hard decisions. It makes, it's a big part of what makes a man a man. And so as men's testosterone are dropping year after year after year after year, we see it in the studies. It's clear. And we see the numbers that the labs say are normal dropping dramatically from where they used to be. Mm-hmm. And now we say that's normal, and it's not normal, and it's not healthy, and it's not driving prostate cancer to have normal or optimal levels of testosterone. It's not driving heart disease, just the opposite of both.
So at 70 plus, it's all right to feel good with testosterone.
100%.
In all the side effects that are positive from having a testosterone level where I feel comfortable with it. Not necessarily where you feel comfortable,
Right,
but we're
right,
all
right.
individual.
Right.
And that the testosterone I've been on has, from you, your
Yeah.
compounded,
Yeah.
has really made a significant difference in how I feel. Some of these things are a little bit subtle, and you
Yeah.
have to pay attention to
Sure.
and continue over time. But that one is a significant difference, and
Oh,
you can tell it right away.
Bill, listen. There are ongoing studies right now that show that the benefits of testosterone are still some of these benefits are still coming out and improving up to 9 years after starting. Wow. So think about that. There was one particularly on erectile dysfunction that showed 9 years later they were still, and they score it. They have a score. I can't remember. It's like some initial scores that they start with these people, and they would repeat these tests every year, and 9 years later, their scores were better than they were at 8 years later, 7 years later, 6 years later. They're getting better and better. And it's not just on sexual dysfunction. That's just the one that come to my mind that I just saw and read the other day. The heart benefits, the brain benefits that we've discussed, the muscle benefits, the blood sugar burning benefits, the fat, visceral fat burning benefits. And here's the thing that people men really need to hear this, because I know there's doctors, and there's one in particular locally that is doing this, and it is a completely dangerous practice, is giving these men something to block their estradiol or their estrogen conversion from testosterone. That is an old theory that the gym bros, I'll call them, used to use, that you want to get your testosterone as high as you can and your estrogen as low as you can. Well, that is a very, very dangerous practice, Bill.
So we're back to balance again.
We are, because part of our testosterone as a man is going to be converted to estradiol. That is very, 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 hear me on this, men, very heart protective. It is very bone protective. It is very visceral fat protected, the fat that kills us the quickest. So we know we actually want to drive the man's estradiol up with the testosterone as part of why it works so well and why it helps prevent heart disease. It's very protective of the arteries. So what you find is when you use testosterone with an aromatase inhibitor or an estrogen blocker, okay, what you will find is much higher rates of heart disease and heart attacks and deaths. So again, God intended for part of our testosterone to be converted to estradiol. So I'd look
at thyroid.
No. That has nothing to do with thyroid. No. Right. So when we look at the way drugs work and why they have so many side effects, I tell everybody they either block a receptor that God put in the body, almost always. They either block a receptor that God intended to work, or they block an enzyme system that God intended to work. So an aromatase inhibitor blocking your enzyme aromatase that converts part of our testosterone to estradiol, you're blocking that effect. And so it leads to bad outcomes.
Okay.
But a lot of these clinics and a lot of these doctors are doing a lot of that. And it's really scary to me, because I don't want to see these men, with heart disease.
Is their goal to try to reduce cancer?
No. Their goal is they think that too much estradiol will cause them, they'll say, retain water or give them man boobs and all this, and it's completely false.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it's an old theory that was used years and years ago, and so it's just stuck around, and that's the way a lot of doctors learned it, and that's the way they still practice it despite the overwhelming evidence against it. So what I want to say as we finish up, we got to finish. Mike's told us we're over time, but this is very interesting, but men need to hear me on this. If you are on testosterone and you have an aromatase inhibitor, something blocking the conversion of your estrogen, you need to highly, highly, highly consider that that's not the best course of therapy, and that your provider is not giving you the best advice at that point.
Okay.
Okay.
Good.
It's really important, Bill. And the same thing with people who are concerned with their prostate. You know, and you brought it, you printed it out and brought it, the Traverse study. Mm-hmm. I mean, it proved that we don't increase heart disease with testosterone. It's the longest, biggest study ever done. And it proves that we don't increase prostate cancer and, you know, so forth. So all those misbeliefs have been disproven over and over and over, but it's hard to change people's minds. So people ask me, when's it going to change? When's it going to change? When's it going to change? And I say, whenever this generation of doctors dies, I guess maybe we'll get some change. I don't know any other way to do it.
Yeah.
So, but Bill, thank you so much. I'm glad you've had such good, we should have asked more about so really quick, you just finished with a minute on some of your results since you came through the IPU program and started this.
I would say that as far as testosterone is concerned, for example,
Yeah.
I go back before I started, and it was 250,
Yep.
275, and I'm wondering if that was part of the cause, along with other things.
Right.
I also have stopped all medications.
Yeah.
My reflux is gone.
And you were on Nexium how long? Or omeprazole?
Omeprazole, 25 years.
25 years. Okay.
So all of my reflux has almost totally gone.
Right.
If I cheat a little, then I pay
Right.
for it.
Right.
I had Sjogren's and still have some,
Yeah.
but that's minimized to the point where
So an autoimmune is just about wiped itself out.
more autoimmune
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yep.
Some skin cancer issues that have been much reduced.
Yeah.
Basal cell, so it's not that
Yeah.
serious, but still. More energy, more muscle, lost 20 pounds, 25 pounds, changed diet quite a bit
Yeah.
to do that. So there's been a lot of benefit, less joint pain, more initiative to get up and do things. So there's been a lot of benefit
Yeah.
from the protocols
Yeah.
that you tell us about and that we follow pretty closely, Lydia
Yeah.
and I. And Lydia and I do it together, which makes it much easier.
Yes, absolutely. So you've had positive benefits. So you would say, hey, despite all the noise and the chatter from the other side, we'll call them the medical system, the standard medical system,
Right.
that you have found that these things work. Is that a fair statement?
Well, I get more positive results with following these protocols than I have with the drugs.
Right.
I put it that way.
And I want people to hear that.
Yeah.
I really want people to hear that, especially men, because we do talk a lot more about women. It's just for whatever reason, that's the way it goes. But that's why today you coming on with such a shot that we needed, I think, to say, hey, let's talk about the men a little bit.
And we can feel better. And
Absolutely.
And we can follow some examples that our wives set for us as far as, trying to balance hormones and not feel self-conscious about that.
That's right. Well, Bill, thank you so much. I hope that men will take this and learn that they can feel better, they can perform better, they can look better, they can do all these things, but it's going to take some effort and some research, and
Absolutely.
I'm here to help them. All right.
Thanks for
Bill.
having me.
Yep.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.